Welcome to 5 Good Minutes. You're listening to today's inspirational message on the fruit of the Spirit with Kurt Bjorklund.
So I'm going to end this week much the way that I have ended the other weeks where I've had the chance just to talk about the way in which the fruit of the Spirit works. And that is by simply saying, if you look at your life and say, well, I want to be less corrupt and more good, or less of a phony and more authentic across all environments in which I live and move, chances are you can do that for a while. And again, it's better than not doing anything. But the way that you will ultimately be able to experience growth in your fruit, in your goodness, is in beholding the goodness of God and seeing His goodness in your life and celebrating it and savoring it. I mentioned this week that one of the reasons that we don't always move forward in our spiritual growth, the fruit of the Spirit in our lives, is either there's pride. We don't want to admit that we need to grow, so we want to say, I'm already good. I'm completely good. There's no lack of integrity in me. Or our fear that if I live that way, if I try to commit to God's goodness in my life, then I'm going to miss out on certain other things that I need in my world. And what we need to do is ultimately admit our need, admit that Jesus has a standard and that we don't meet it, and then push our fear aside and say, when I embrace the standard that God has for me, then I am able to live and lean into His goodness. Now again, goodness is maybe a little nebulous even after spending a few days talking about it. Maybe it's not for you. I find for me that goodness is one of those things that I assume that I am until I really examine myself and see some areas where I'm not all about God's standard, or where I want something for myself rather than for God. And it's helpful for me to go back in and look at my life and ask some hard questions and say, what would goodness, what would integrity, wholeness look like in this situation? And then to say, okay, God, how can I cultivate this goodness mindset again, rather than simply saying, how do I live my life in this arena, and not understanding the corruption that can exist. I want to make one last point too, and that is sometimes there's a counterfeit of wholeness, goodness, and it's speaking truth without love. Ephesians 4:15, we referenced it earlier this week, says, speak the truth in love. And the counterfeit is saying, well, I'm just a person who's a truth teller. I'm good. I speak truth. I'm the same person across every environment in which I live and move. And there's no love. There's no desire to bring any nuance or sensitivity, softness to our conversation. And sometimes that is actually a counterfeit of what genuine goodness is, which is having an integrity and honesty and a transparency that says, I'm the same in all situations and I'm for God's agenda. Are you for God's agenda? That's part of the fruit of the Spirit, and it grows organically as you lean into the Spirit of God in your life.
Thanks for joining us here today. There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.